The food's really good, not gonna lie. So, I heard face-to-face is starting again soon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw on the Facebook page of our school that to join the next semester's face-to-face classes, you need not only the 3 vaccination doses, but also a life insurance at that from one of the major companies like Manulife, PruLife UK.
Where did you hear that? Because that's the first time I've heard of it.
Well, I'd like to oppose that because I myself have read the memo and it said there that only life insurance from PhilHealth is required.
Also, like, not those like big medical insurances, right?
No, I think what Sean said is a disinformation.
Because to me it sounded actually pretty convincing and I almost believed him.
Well, that's the thing about disinformation because it works because it sounds true and anybody can fall for it, even the well-educated ones.
Actually, guys, that's what we're going to be discussing today in our podcast. So we'll discuss what disinformation is, its causes, some examples, local and international, and also what we can do about disinformation.
So you mentioned something about disinformation, right? So how do we really define disinformation?
So disinformation is when someone with evil intentions tries to create a false information or make up lies to destroy a certain individual's or organization's reputation or create, rumors.
So they like intend to do to cause harm, but what about those that didn't mean it?
The unintentional kind of.
So that's the difference between disinformation and misinformation. Disinformation is when somebody has evil intentions, while misinformation is when someone believes that what they're spreading is real when it's actually not. So the only difference between the two, between the D and the M, is the intention.
Well, thanks for that because I didn't know that. Next is we're gonna talk about why disinformation is popular.
Yeah. And why do people fall for it?
Yeah.
Okay, so why do people fall for fake news? Can't they just tell when they come across them, right? So having such easy access to real facts or fact checkers surely solves the problem, right?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, part of the reason why fake news is so rampant these days is that people do fall for it, even the educated ones. And showing them the solutions doesn't help solve the problem. The spread of fake news is actually not a matter of gullibility. It's actually due to a human factor of the human thinking called cognitive biases. Have you heard of that?
Oh yeah, I've actually read something about that. I read an article. So it said how disinformation targets 3 biases of people, or no, 3 biases rather in general. There's there's bias in the, like you said, in cognitive bias, which is like how the information is it targets their cognition and how they think, like their emotional attachment to the news or the information in general.
Right.
Another one is a bias of the society. It could be like disinformation of like the people around them, like who your circle around you. And lastly, what I read is disinformation of the bias in the machine. And which is like those Twitter bots, like those algorithms, how they're tied up.
Yeah, well, I think social media platforms play a big role in spreading disinformation, right?
Yeah, since we're talking about why disinformation is popular, like you said, I think one of the biggest trigger regarding disinformation, why it's so rampant these days, is first is because it's the modern world. the advancement of technology, the birth of the internet and social media. I think you guys are aware of, like, when you open Facebook or Twitter or TikTok. Have you tried? Do you have TikTok?
No, I don't actually.
I think that's
I do.
I think that's the most popular app these days, and a lot of people are actually using it because TikTok is generally social media. It's like it's for entertainment. We are entrapped in it because of the entertainment that it provides. So that kind of design for the internet or the social media is actually very detrimental for us with regards to, like, getting information,
Especially
the
how
real information.
the internet right now is very accessible.
Yeah, I think I think personally that when I open Twitter or TikTok, the time flies so fast when I open those apps. So
Even I would believe, like, I would just check what's trending on Twitter, and then I would just see what's hot, and then I just believe the news.
That's the thing with disinformation, because like generally people create those rumors because they're interesting. So other people get believe it's true because it's more interesting than the real story, you know?
Yeah,
that's the sad part because like you said, the truth is not as popular as the fake news, and also basically the internet, the social media, there's just an overload of information, and they're having a hard time to differentiate what is real from what is fake because, like I said, it's an overload of information basically.
Yeah, and to add to that, I think the algorithm of these said social media platforms plays a big role, right? Because you view one thing and then unconsciously the next day it appears again with even more information of it real or not, right?
That's dangerous because, like, what if you click on an article that's like disinformation, and then like
and it will appear again and again.
That's what the algorithm does.
Yeah.
And if people keeps on entertaining these kind of informations, there's just a bad consequence for it. Like example, I'm a Lenny supporter. For example, in TikTok, I think the biggest factor on why the opposing side won is because of TikTok, because there's just so much advertisement for that for the other candidate. And
that's the thing with the last elections. Like, what I've noticed is that the Lenny supporters, especially, they're mostly they're very vocal with their opinions, and those opinions get misunderstood into discrimination.
Yeah, well, I think one of the factors why it's hard for
Wait! Before anything,
yeah.
Can you state your political stance, please?
Well, I'd rather not because this is a podcast and
No. So I can figure out if I should be listening to you or not, because
Why does it matter?
well, you
As a
should,
firm
because that's the thing.
BBM.
That's the first step on how people get disinformed.
well, in that case, I'm a proud Lenny supporter.
Oh my
How about you,
Okay, so-
Mr. Raezsean?
As I said, I'm a BBM supporter.
Oh,
So from now on, you can start talking about whatever opinions you have, but I will not be listening to whatever you say because you Lenny supporters are very discriminatory.
Disclaimer: none of these are disinformation.
These are
well,
opinions.
I think what Sean said is right. He said that we Lenny supporters are sometimes come off like discriminating or like the elitist vibe, right? And I think that played a big role on why Lenny lost the elections, because instead of battling disinformation in the right way, Lenny supporters degraded BBM supporters and failed to convince them to switch to Lenny. Well, they could have chose a more a proper approach, right?
Yeah, weren't there like lots of disinformation that just went all around the internet?
Maybe that's why many were convinced to vote BBM, because realistically speaking, the Philippine education system is not that good, right?
Yeah.
So people will fall for whatever's catchy on the internet, right? You just tell
With regards to history.
Yep, you just make up these bunch of videos that's critically convincing, and then people will believe in you, right? Well, that's what BBM supporters did, and that's why many people believed in them. Well, well, we have
I
another
think
side.
this is a firm case of disinformation because you have not said any facts or sources within. Like you've been saying that BBM supporters are making stuff up when in reality you haven't said any.
Well, I'd like to. How much time do we have? Because I can name lots of.
Producer, how much time do we have?
We have like 10 minutes.
So much later that the old narrator got tired of waiting and they had to hire a new one.
Well, actually, you guys are on different sides, right? So that's the thing about this information. You will believe whatever it is that is in favor with your beliefs, and
Bias
so
in the brain. Or
Yeah,
cognitive bias, right?
Yeah, that plays a big role.
Also, that's the for the local example of this information. Now, I think it's time to move on to the international one.
Yeah.
So, sometimes also, guys, this information targets the marginalized communities, or this information is generated because of a politically motivated agenda. And in my experience, this information is sometimes used as a tool to manipulate people's perception of reality.
Oh yeah.
And it like in the election, Sean and Ben, it was used for this destruction and to intensify conflicts. That's what happened, right? Like you said.
Right.
And an example of the international one is the Black Lives Matter.
Oh yeah.
Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah,
In the summer of 2020. Did you remember who was the guy that was killed?
That was George Floyd, right?
Yeah, it's
Floyd
George.
Mayweather?
No, just George Floyd.
He was misinformed.
You're always disinformed. Well, George Floyd George Floyd was actually killed on the summer of 2020, and his killing was it sparked a lot of outrage with the across the United States. There were tens of thousands of Black Lives demonstration. So what happened back then is, because Black Lives Matter was a hot topic in the media, what happened instead is that there were a lot of fake news surrounding the Black Lives Matter. So because the Black Lives Matter is a hot topic, then it's easy for people to make stories, make up stories.
It's like they could use a clickbait on it, right?
Yeah. With
And
regards
also there
to
were sloppy journalisms.
yeah, I will mention later about an example of that. But basically, there was more racism. Instead of supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, people were kind of against it because of the disinformation, the fake news regarding Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And since you asked about the sloppy journalism, there was an example about the 12 white female bodies that they were tagged as Black Lives Matter. So that was the start of the people not supporting the Black Lives Matter movement anymore.
But did it really have something to do with the Black Lives Matter, or was it just a whole different case?
I think but it's confirmed that it's a sloppy journalism because it was intended to for people to be against the Black Lives Matter movement.
The thing is, I wonder if the intention was to destroy BLM's reputation, or if it was to garner, ride the waves per se, or ride the cloud. They might have just started those rumors just to, garner some views or clicks towards those.
I think that happened.
Clickbait.
Yeah, that's what happened because they can generate income with that, those kind of
So,
fake
in
news.
your guys' opinions, if the intention wasn't to destroy another person's reputation. Is that disinformation or misinformation?
Was not
If it was
intended?
unintended.
No, because what if their intentions wasn't to destroy another person's reputation, but instead to gain more attention for them? So, for example, I could make up a lie about you guys just so people like me more. My intentions wouldn't be to lower your reputation, but to increase mine.
I feel like disinformation has to do with like your intentions,
intentions.
and not only that, but like misinformation comes from disinformation, right? So, like, yeah, that's what I think. What about you guys?
I think that's a kind of disinformation, because even though you don't intend to paint others in a bad light, you're still using it for your personal gain, right? So you're still aware of what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think that's all we should have for this segment, because next on our segment we should talk about the solutions.
Yeah.
That's
And
the
how
most
to battle
important part.
disinformation, right?
Yeah, since it's like a very big problem.
Alright.
Because production is getting angry at us.
We're running out of time.
We're running out of time. So, what do you guys think we should be doing to, counteract disinformation or lessen its
Effects.
effects? Yeah.
Well, for me, personally, I believe that the MIL, the Media Information Literacy, you guys took that class in senior high school, right?
Yeah.
So I think that subject helped a lot with me with regards to dealing with this information, because honestly, when I scroll in Facebook, especially in Facebook and TikTok, that's where most of the disinformation come from. And also in the internet, I barely believe anything I see anymore, unless it's like confirmed or verified, or I trust the source.
That's what should be taught in like schools, especially now that information is just everywhere. I think like people should learn to just doubt everything.
Yeah, we should be
Or,
skeptical.
not that. Yeah, skeptical. 'Cause
That subject really helped me a lot. How about you guys? What do you think is the...
Well, I for one, we all know that almost all of us have a cell phone, right? So
Mhm.
when we wake up, we use our cell phone. We check our social media accounts every day, and I think that plays a big role on how we take in information. So in battling disinformation, I think we should hold social media platforms accountable.
Oh,
Right?
Like how Twitter spreads easily, right?
Yeah, the algorithm. I think social media platforms should prioritize the reactionary decisions on which content to take down, which voices to downgrade, and which political ads to allow to minimize the spread of disinformation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I disagree a little bit, because the thing is, if any platforms or any powerful body is able to control what is spread or not, that's very dangerous, because like if it works, then it's good. But if some political body, for example, like a government part or like a party would like to pay those platforms to take down the opposing party's campaigns, for example, in the name of disinformation and stuff. Platforms and any powerful bodies should have no say whatsoever on controlling.
Like I don't know. Like Twitter is actually known for its like a free speech. That's where people go for free speech. But
Yeah.
then again,
And that's how a democratic country works, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
then again, in Twitter there are lots of bots right now. Like when like Elon Musk.
So I think like Twitter, right? So how they banned Donald Trump, right? So yeah, you might say that Donald Trump was spreading fake news or whatever to garner more votes, but at the same time, isn't that pretty how do you say it? Very propaganda-ish to take down the leader of an opposing party.
I think that's one way to say it.
So you know how like also another way for like a party is like how people just share anything on Twitter, or
Yeah.
like they retweet. I mean, even bots do that, and when a tweet gets popular, like people are more inclined to believe it, right? The more popular it gets.
Yeah. I
Here's
actually agree to that.
A solution that I actually searched online. So it's called Bot-O-Meter by Osomi. So this website actually checks out Twitter accounts. You put their at, and it checks their followers, their friends, and you can actually see their activity if they're a bot. So yeah, that's one of the solutions like for the modern disinformation.
So for me, my solutions would be to lessen, like yours, like lessen the bots. So how I would do it is do what China was doing, where to create an account, you actually need a verification process. For example, like QQ, which is like the Twitter Chinese version of Twitter.
Yeah.
So you'd need an ID, like a government ID.
You have to set your ID just to make an account.
Yeah. So in
We should
WeChat,
have
all
those.
you need to do is to create an account. You need someone else with an already verified account to verify you. So for example, if you want to make a WeChat account, you'd have to ask like
Someone who is verified.
Yeah. To verify.
Oh, that's
Also, you mentioned you sent me an app, or is it a website? So basically, what happens is that when you play that game, they will give you a fake news or a real story, and it's up to you if whether you believe it or not. Just use your media information literacy skills. So I think more apps or stuff like that should be there should be more of that in order to really hone our skills with regards to battling this information.
I agree.
And I think if I were to make a solution, I would make is to develop an app. But this is an idealistic solution.
So that's for the future.
So develop an app where basically if you search an information or just a keyword for a certain news or something like that, it's an easy way for you to double check if the information is real.
Yeah.
Do you guys get what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, if, let's say for example, the 12 white killings of the female bodies, the example from earlier, the 12 white killings, so like that is tagged as Black Lives Matter. So if we try to search that, then what would appear is if it's real or not, or more
So,
sources regarding about that.
It's like an article checker.
Yes.
Yeah, an article checker, but you guys see, people are not actually inclined to double check their sources because it's actually very hassle just for us to like double check if the information is real or not, right?
So Lance, I think production has told us that rental fee is getting higher and higher, and we're gonna have to pay more if we stay longer. So
So okay,
I think we should get ready for a conclusion.
yeah.
So to conclude, I think what I've learned in this episode of PAWD-CAST is that being the only non-Lenny supporter in this group, it is very life-threatening and very scary for me. So I think I should be leaving early.
Alright,
Good luck,
goodbye,
everybody.
John.
Okay, go back. We're not even finished. We're almost done.
Okay, how about you, Z?
For me, what I learned is that how like disinformation is actually like really a problem nowadays, and that like how technology should innovate and with the softwares and all. What about you, Lan?
I think the main solution for disinformation. By the way, I learned a lot from the podcast, guys. Thank you for all of what you've shared
Thank
today.
you for
But
sharing also.
I think that the main solution for this is disinformation is brought to us by the advancement of technology, because the birth of internet and social media, where there is an overload of
Yeah,
information.
like before, they wouldn't have those like Twitter bot
Yeah.
checkers or
Yeah.
article fact checkers.
But now, since this information is brought by the advancement of technology, then we should also innovate to battle disinformation. Like the app that you you mentioned earlier, those bot checkers, the develop an app where you can check hassle-free the information, the information in the internet and double check it. Like, put more credible sources online where people can actually trust that website or app, whether the information is not a disinformation.
So to wrap it up, I hope this podcast has brought enlightenment to our viewers who browse the social media platforms every day, because in the age of information, ignorance is a choice.
Oh, preach!
Okay, guys.
Thank you to our production team, Mr. Matthew Derence Gullem. Kita sa dalawa kay Grant. And Virlenn Zamora. Our beautiful Perrie, the most planning leader.
Sponsored by. It's Sponsored by.
We're